noticed these things. I was a guard with the Grenadiers. We fought these lot during the Second World War. 4th Regiment fought. Yeah, Irish Guards, 5th. Yeah, that's odd. They've got all corporals on. I presume they're all on a corporal's course, NCO's card or something like that. It's very often, very rare you see NCOs all doing duty. Oh no, it's too no. They don't. Corporals mess. They don't pay too much in terms of money. No, it must be corpus course, or they just finished doing something. Anyway, I digress. Here we are now, centre of the grounds of the tower. From here, I can point out to you some of the places that you might wish to visit once I free you from this guided tour in 4.5 hours' time. Some of you look, please find out, otherwise me deeply. Haven't you got any friends? So, over your left shoulder, battlements. And we spoke about the entrance to the right of Traitors Gate. Back down the stone stairs, left of the archway of the bloody tower is a small gap, which will take you into the lower Wakefield Tower. Inside there today, you'll discover a jolly display of torture implements. Children are most welcome. Down here to your left, bottom of those diagonally running stairs is the door, enabling you to enter the bloody tower, home to those 2 tragic boy princes, another of our famous inmates, Sir Walter Raleigh. In the corner here, a large black and white Tudor building. I'm afraid to say, however, you cannot visit there. Reason best described in the building's title. It's known you see as the Queen's House, because it quite literally is the Queen's House. Gosh, some of you lot are really going to struggle in here today, aren't you? Hence protocol demands, soldier from the 4th Regiment of Foot Guards, Welsh Guards on duty out front. Please remember they are real soldiers. They do not do customer service. Just because they're in ceremonial uniform, it doesn't mean they're all nice and cuddly. Please remember the assault rifles that they carry are real ready and loaded. So be nice to the man who's holding the gun. Sorry, sir? No, sir. The only time they arm us is on the coronation. So we ain't been carried, well, we get pistols. We didn't get there. The last time we got them was 1952. So, yeah, because what happens is on the night before the coronation, all of the crown jewels are taken to the Jerusalem chamber at Westminster Abbey, and we go and guard them. The Yeoman jailer controls the entrance to the room. We're there. Actually, they give us revolvers. About the safest firearm you can give somebody. Yeah, and we're left with that. I mean, as old soldiers, yeah, I don't like touching anything. Remember, with guns, the smaller the gun, the more dangerous it is. So I like a big thing. I like a big thing, so you can't poke people with it, you know. But yeah, the smaller the gun, the more dangerous it is. It's a good thing to remember. Not that guns are a good thing, or bad. So yeah, he's a real soldier. Like I say, they are here to do their very best. The Queen's House itself, just like every other, used as a prison. Notably, Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard, held here before their executions. 1605, Guy Fawkes, you may have heard of him. Chap tried to blow up the House of Parliament, kill the King, wipe out the national government. The only man they say to enter that building from that day to this with honest intentions. A bit cynical about politicians, but it comes with a job. It's a bit like real estate, isn't it? You've got to be prepared to lie, haven't you, when you're selling property? It's a bit like being a politician, I guess. You've got to try and lie to persuade people to follow you. You know, not just simply lie for the sake of it. It's not nice, but that's called reality. Reality is a little bit different from Facebook and Twitter. Okay? I do sometimes wish people would get a bit of a thicker skin. A bit too sensitive sometimes. But there you go. It's life. I'm going to change anything, I guess. 1700s, William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania, and the last state prison held in 1941. His name was Rudolf Hess, the deputy Führer of Nazi Germany. Held him for 10 days. Released, kept under guard, returned to Nuremberg. He stood trial with surviving Nazi leaders, sentenced life imprisonment. He died behind bars, a prisoner still actually, in Spandau prison, West Berlin, the 18th of August 1987. An unrepentant Nazi, yes, he died an unrepentant Nazi. Perhaps the most evil person I have ever met. He was unrepentant. I can say that because I've met him, spoke to him, and had to guard him myself for 3 years. Believe you me, he was a Nazi. That doesn't mean he ran around with a skinhead and wore a swastika on his arm. That's an idiot. He was well dressed, well spoken, quite believable. It was just his idea of history differed from how I had been taught in school. Sad thing nowadays, we want to hide all of these things now, don't we? Have trigger warnings, I think they call them, or something like that, isn't it? Huh? Get a spine. You know, we want to hide a lot of history now, don't we? You know, these people were not very nice. Well, no, they weren't. You can't judge history by the standards and social mores of the 21st century. Hide them away. Knock down these statues. Get rid of them. Yeah, fine. Do it. But what concerns me about that is that one of these days a person like Mr. Hess is going to stand up, or a Mrs. Hess. And they're going to give us a version of history, and with nothing to look back on, we're going to end up believing it. And let me tell you now, it'd be a darn sight worse and more divisive than the fact that Admiral Lord Nelson, victor of Trafalgar, perhaps was a big fan of the slave trade. Really? I think we need to put things into perspective. But what would I know? I'm just an old squaddy. Behind you, beneath the large clock, is the entrance to the Crown Jewels and Royal Regalia. Inside there today you'll find 11 tons of gold and silver platinum, 23,300 gemstones, the largest concentration of precious metals and gems on public display on the surface of planet Earth. Enough gold and treasure to keep this great country running for about 20 minutes. That's if, of course, we can decide how to spend it. We probably need a second vote on that one. Just let me remind you, since the reign of King George IV, it's the law of the country that the Crown Jewels must be kept here. I love it. They've got some display going on at the moment, and it's as only we can do in Britain. It's got George IV, you see it in the tubes. George IV, one of our most exuberant kings. Really? That's why we got the Crown Jewels here. He was so exuberant, he ran up a gambling debt of £52 million. He was so exuberant, in fact, we couldn't pay the debt. He couldn't pay it. The government had to pay his gambling debt. He was such an exuberant king, he was a national embarrassment. That is why the Crown Jewels are kept here. Because King George IV had his gambling debt paid off and then had to give the government all of the Crown estates. You know, the stuff that the Queen apparently owns, that we all think that she owns? No, she doesn't. She owns it in name, but it's administered by the government, the people that we elect. And the profits from the Crown estate pay Her Majesty the Queen. So, to give you an idea, Her Majesty gets, I think, what's known as the sovereign grant to maintain Buckingham Palace and all the others, pay her staff and pay the people who represent her doing public duties. She gets something like £40 million a year. Great deal of money. Yes, isn't it? Great deal of money. That comes from the properties, rental income from the Crown estates, which the government run for the Crown. And they give her the money. By the way, last year the government made £270 million from the Crown estates, of which Your Majesty got 40. Where do you think the rest of the money went? For the British people amongst you, where do you think that went? It went to me. And trust me now, if it went to me, I wouldn't be here. It actually went to things called the National Health Service, the welfare state. Many British people are familiar? That's where it comes from. Many people I hear think that we, the taxpayer, pay for the sovereign. Yes, we do. We pay for the sovereign's police protection. That is all the taxpayer pays, I'm afraid. It's fact. It's just such a shame that message doesn't get out there. Incidentally, it's a lot of money. £17 million, police protection. But if you want me to put it into perspective, Notting Hill Carnival. Anyone heard of Notting Hill Carnival? Pretty much this country's biggest one. This year, to police that on one day, cost £5 million. So, I think they're pretty cheap in real terms. But what would I know? But there you go. In front of you here is Tower Green. The village green, the centre of our grounds, in its own right a site of historic significance. Why? Well, somewhere here in the town, we don't know where, was once located the tower's private execution spot. 6 people were executed somewhere around here. Modern historians believe probably when there's 2 actors dressed in sort of like period costume. I'm not sure why the nun has got handcuffs on. Some gentlemen get quite excited about that, I'm not quite sure why. Nuns in handcuffs, that's different. But some believe that where they actually stand is probably where the execution site was. 6 people executed here, 3 of them Queens of England: Anne Boleyn, Catherine Howard and Lady Jane Grey, the Tower's youngest victim at the age of 17. 3 others: Margaret Pole, the Countess of Salisbury, the aunt of King Henry VIII; Jane Boleyn, the wife of George Boleyn, Anne Boleyn's sister-in-law; and finally one man, Robert Devereux, the 2nd Earl of Essex. These and many more now lie in this building over here to your right, Chapel Royal of St Peter Vincula. Normally, I take you inside, sit down, get warm, and show you where they lie, as they all are under the altar, and tell you how they died and what's happened to them. But I'm afraid to say, it's decided out of the 4.4 million visitors we have here, that I think it's 0.9% have difficulty going down the 5 stairs. So what we've done now is just open it up so you go in there and have a look yourself, because apparently you all know about it. As sort of the professional man in me, it sort of saddens me that I can't do that with you. Actually, it really does sadden me. But the lazy boy in me goes, I'm getting to finish a little bit earlier and I can go home and have a cup of tea. Which really does cheer me up because I'm freezing. So, have a look round. But, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this rather longer commentary than I expected. It was only going to be half an hour. I've overran by 15 minutes. I hope you didn't mind. I'd just like to close by saying, ladies and gentlemen, it has indeed been an honour, a privilege and a pleasure to conduct you today around this, my home, the Tower of London. Thank you very much. See the crown jewels? When you exit, turn immediately left and you will find the most visited building in the tower. It's toilets, yes! Now get out of here, you idle tourists!